It was a quiet, late summer afternoon in the vast plains of Western America. The sun hung low, casting a golden hue over the fields, and long shadows stretched across the dusty roads. Everything seemed still, too still, for someone like Ethan Miller, who had spent years in the chaos of war. Ethan stepped out of his old rusty pickup truck. His boots hit the dry earth with a soft thud. The wind carried the faint smell of hay and something else, a scent he couldn't quite place. Adjusting the strap of his duffel bag on his aching shoulder, he scanned the land that used to be his home. It had been 8 years since he had last stood here, but now he was back. However, the war hadn't stayed behind. Ethan's face, once full of life, was now hardened by sun, sand, and sorrow. Lines marked his face, and his body bore the weight of both chronic pain and memories too cruel to forget. Diagnosed with PTSD, Ethan had left the army not in triumph, but with quiet resignation. But there was something, someone, that had kept his spirit from fully breaking. His loyal companion, a Belgian Malinois named Max. Max wasn't just a dog, he was family, a fellow soldier. Ethan had trusted him with his life countless times. When Ethan left the army, he assumed Max had been retired or placed with another handler. But months passed, and no one knew where Max was. Driven by worry, Ethan tracked down every lead, every contact, until finally he found Max's location, at a private training facility hidden behind a neglected industrial park. Ethan didn't hesitate. He climbed over a sagging wire fence and moved through the tall, neglected grass. There, behind a rusted container, he saw a movement, a skeletal figure. His heart slammed in his chest as he knelt beside Max. The dog barely moved, his ribs showing through the thin, dirty fur. Ethan gently cupped Max's face in his hands, his voice breaking as he called the dog's name. "Max, hey buddy, it's me." "Ethan." Max's once bright eyes were now dull, clouded with exhaustion and pain. It felt like an eternity before the dog responded, but when he did, his tail gave a feeble wag and he let out a soft, shaky whimper. It was enough. Ethan's breath hitched with relief. He could feel the connection, the bond that had never truly been broken, even though they had been apart for so long. Ethan stood, feeling the weight of Max in his arms as he lifted him. Despite the pain in his back and the cold fear in his chest, he wasn't going to let go. He wasn't going to lose his best friend again. As he walked away from the facility, cradling Max against his chest, a part of him felt the anger rise. The thought of Max being neglected, starved, left behind, after everything they had gone through together, it was unbearable. This wasn't just a dog. Max had been his brother in arms, his partner in battle. With Max in the truck, Ethan drove, the wind tearing through the cracked windows. He didn't know where he was going exactly, just away from the place that had filled the air as Dr. Samantha Reyes examined Max. The room was quiet except for the soft sounds of Max's labored breathing. Ethan watched, his fists clenched, as the vet gently prodded Max's wounds. Dr. Reyes clicked her tongue as she inspected a particularly deep scar on Max's side. "This one's recent," she said softly. "It looks like it was inflicted on purpose." Ethan's face hardened. His mind raced back to the days in the war zone. How many times had he relied on Max to protect him? How many lives had they saved together, only to have the world treat Max like a disposable tool? Max groaned weakly, his paw trembling in Dr. Reyes' hand. She met Ethan's eyes. "He's been through a lot, physically and emotionally. We need to put him on antibiotics and keep him here for a few days. He's also severely underweight." Ethan nodded, swallowing hard. Just fix him, whatever it takes." As Dr. Reyes worked, Ethan sat in the corner, thinking about everything they'd gone through, about how, when he was deployed, Max was always by his side, how they had survived the worst together. He wasn't about to let Max slowly regain his strength, and Ethan poured all his energy into caring for him. But the anger was still there, burning deep inside him, so Ethan decided to do something about it. One night, after feeding Max and settling him into his bed by the fireplace, Ethan sat at his old desk. His hands shook as he typed out the post. He uploaded a photo of Max, thin and frail, yet still holding that spark of life in his eyes. The caption was simple but raw. "He fought for this country, and this is how he was treated." Ethan clicked post. Within minutes, the floodgates opened. Comments poured in. Veterans, animal lovers, families of soldiers, everyone had something to say. Some were angry, some heartbroken, but all were moved. It wasn't long before a local news station reached out for an interview. As the phone buzzed with notifications, Ethan stared at Max. The dog was asleep, finally at peace. He wasn't just fighting for Max anymore. He was fighting for every dog like him. Every dog, slowly but steadily. Every day he grew stronger, more energetic. Ethan kept a close eye on him, adjusting his diet, making sure he got the rest he needed. Slowly the dog began to resemble the Max Ethan remembered, the loyal, fearless soldier who had always kept a watchful eye on him. They started taking longer walks, first around the yard, then down the dirt road that led into the small town. Max was still hesitant, his body aching from the years of neglect, but with every step his confidence grew. One morning while they were walking along the quiet road, a small breeze stirred the leaves. Max's ears perked up, and for the first time since his recovery, he let out a playful bark. Ethan laughed, his heart lightening at the sound. "That's it, buddy," Ethan said, his voice full of pride. "You're coming back to us." Max's tail wagged furiously, and the two of them continued their walk side by side. For the first time in years, Ethan to the store. Ethan had his list, Max was in the passenger seat, and the afternoon was quiet. But that quiet shattered when a man in a hoodie rushed into the store holding a gun. The man shouted at the cashier and the customers to get on the floor. Ethan froze, his heart pounding in his chest. But Max didn't hesitate. He jumped out of the truck and bolted for the door. Inside, the situation was escalating fast. The man was yelling at a woman who had her child in tow, and Max could sense the danger. Without a second thought, Max tackled the man to the ground, pinning him with the same precision he had used countless times in the field. The gun skittered across the floor as the man struggled beneath Max's weight. Ethan rushed in, pulling the terrified woman and her child to safety before going to Max's side. He placed his hand on the dog's head. "Good boy, Max." The store was in chaos, but as the authorities arrived and the scene calmed, Ethan stood there, pride swelling in his chest. Max had saved the day, just like he had so many times. The video of Max taking down the armed robber went viral. People across the country were moved by the dog's bravery and loyalty. They were outraged by what had happened to him, but they also celebrated his incredible strength. Soon, Ethan and Max were invited to speak at the National War Dog Memorial Ceremony. Standing before a crowd of veterans, military families, and supporters, Ethan felt a deep sense of gratitude. Max, now healthy and strong, stood beside him, calm and collected as ever. Ethan spoke passionately about the role that dogs like Max played in the military and how they were too often forgotten once their service was over. He shared their story, not as a sob story, but as a testament to resilience. "Max gave everything for me. He saved my life more times than I can count. And now it's my turn to give back to him." The crowd erupted in applause. And as Ethan looked down at Max, he knew Ethan and Max launched their own nonprofit dedicated to rescuing and rehabilitating military working dogs. They used their platform to raise awareness, gather donations, and find homes for retired and abandoned war dogs. Max became the face of the organization. His story inspired countless people, and soon they were receiving dogs from across the country. Dogs that had been mistreated, abandoned, or forgotten. With Ethan's guidance, each dog was given a second chance, just like Max had. One bright morning, while sitting under a tree by the lake, Ethan looked at Max. The dog was older now, but his spirit was as strong as ever. A young German shepherd stood beside them, looking to Max for direction. Ethan smiled, his heart full. "He's ready," Ethan whispered to Max. Max wagged his tail, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt at peace. They had built something bigger than themselves, a legacy of love, loyalty, and second chances. Together, they had not just saved one another, they had changed the lives of countless others. And in the end, that was their true victory.